Another look at security. Why Wake County Schools is revisiting its policies to make sure your child is safe before, during, and after school.
Celebrating promises kept. Phase 1 of this Durham Housing Authority development downtown is now open. This development is different from past ones. Why leaders say this model will work.
Chilly mornings stick around, but you'll wake up to a different look outside. When and where showers could develop.
Right now, Wake County Schools is taking a closer look at security across the district. They want to make a few improvements. Thanks for being with us. I'm Ashley Rowe.
And I'm Dan Haggerty. Good to have you with us. There are a few things on the table at this meeting tonight, including the weapons detection systems. WRAL Eric Miller is live at Southeast Raleigh High School. Security is certainly top of mind for students and parents there, Eric. Shots were fired in a parking lot not too long ago, and that can get people a little frightened.
Absolutely, Dan. Happened less than a month ago, just about 100 yards from where we're standing. That's why we wanted to come to Southeast Raleigh High School to talk to parents and students as Wake County is having this discussion to see how they're feeling. Overall, those parents and students we spoke with, 5 in total, gave a very positive picture of both what the school and district are doing, saying leaders here have been very security focused. They also told us incidents like the one that happened last month are the exception rather than the rule.
Every year there's been something that's happened, but overall I would say, yes, most of the time nothing happens. It's pretty safe.
The district and the school here at Southeast, they're doing everything they can do. A lot of it honestly starts at home, and I think we need to also look at parents doing a lot more.
If you come here on a game night, there's lots of police, there's a good presence of officials.
Now, as Dan mentioned, their weapons detection systems, metal detection systems, those did come up for discussion at this meeting today as well. No action was taken. We put that question to those students and parents we spoke with, and they were split on that issue. Some feeling this would be a step to help improve safety at schools around the district. Others worried that just the logistical issues, trying to get kids in the building, would not be worth the trade-off, the expense and hassle these machines would bring. That debate ongoing, obviously, here as well as among district leadership. In Raleigh, Eric Miller, WRAL News.
All right, Eric. For the last week or so, Durham's health department has been getting questions every day about whether or not COVID vaccines will be available this year. We've been getting them too. Here are a couple of emails sent to us. Apparently, no North Carolina pharmacies are administering the COVID-19 vaccines to persons over 65. Another person said, why is Walgreens refusing to carry out this public health obligation? Durham's medical director is hearing these complaints, and he's worried about it.
We are big proponents of immunization, and we want it to be as easy as possible for people to get immunized against vaccine preventable diseases. And so any of these barriers that are being introduced just makes that more challenging. So what's happening? Why are lots of people being denied the COVID vaccine over these last couple of weeks? We found that out for you. The FDA approved this fall's version of the shot, but North Carolina won't allow pharmacists to give it to you, at least for now. It's state law. We need approval from a CDC advisory panel. The FDA also got rid of the emergency use authorization, and that's what got us speedy access to the vaccine and made shots available for pretty much anyone. Now that is gone. To better understand why that's important and what happens next, let's take a look at how we got here. Emergency use authorization powers were established shortly after the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. Congress passed the Project BioShield Act in 2004. It was all about defending the country in the event of a bioterror attack. Part of that meant letting the FDA quickly authorize products for the purpose of public health and safety. They used this power in 2009 during the swine flu pandemic. They also used it in anticipation of MERS, Ebola, and Zika. Fast forward to 2020, hundreds of emergency use authorizations were issued. For personal protective equipment like masks, those COVID tests that were flying off the shelves at stores, and in December 2020, Pfizer and Moderna got the go-ahead for their COVID vaccines. There was a ton of pressure to push these authorizations through to find a way to put the pandemic behind us. In 2021, RFK Jr. petitioned the FDA to end the emergency use authorizations on the vaccines. The FDA said no. Nearly 5 years after the peak of the pandemic, the emergency authorizations have stayed in place, and RFK Jr. has stood by his position. Today, he's the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and that's why last month the FDA ended the emergency authorization for COVID vaccines. Some states can continue giving the shots, others cannot. The CDC meets later this month to decide what happens next. And that's how we got here.
So we wait. The CDC Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, the group that decides whether to make a recommendation for the vaccine, the thing that's really keeping you from getting your shot, they meet on September 18th. And of course, we'll let you know what happens.
So if you're just getting to the news tonight, we want to get you caught up here. So these are the 5 things you should know right now. A man faces federal charges now after a deadly stabbing on a Charlotte train. That incident that sparked national outrage happened a little over 2 weeks ago. DeCarlos Brown could face the death penalty if he's convicted on the federal charge. A man in Franklin County will face a federal charge after a standoff with law enforcement. Fritz Fink barricaded himself in a home this morning on Twin Creek Drive near Bunn and fired at deputies. Neighbors had to avoid that area for hours until deputies arrested him. A Cary High School student faces charges after police say he brought an airsoft gun to school. We are told 18-year-old Isaiah Hawley Monday wanted to show that gun to his friends. That's when another student reported him. There was no threat there to the school, so there was no lockdown.
The road in Apex where a large sinkhole opened up will stay closed until January. This section of Olive Chapel Road collapsed during flooding last month. DOT will award a contract for repairs next month. In the meantime, crews are relocating utility lines. Council members voted 7-1 to reject a special use permit for a 300-megawatt facility. Developers wanted to build it on a 50-acre piece of land near Anaconda Road. Last night's town council meeting was tense, lasting more than 5 hours. It ended at midnight. Our area is growing and growing fast, and we like to talk about that here at 7 o'clock. It's time for a developing story. A brand new Durham Housing Authority development is ready for move-in, and more are on the way. It's the first part of a multi-phase development replacing old public housing units. WRAL's Monica Casey shows us it's part of a larger plan to change the way affordable housing is structured.
A promise kept. That's what this apartment building in downtown Durham signifies to DHA residents.
It's a lot better from where I came from because where I came from, Oxford Manor.
Bianca Rivera and her 10-year-old son are 2 of the new residents of the Vanguard Apartments.
Me coming here and not seeing trash all over the place, not seeing drug activity or gun violence so far, that has made a big change in our lives.
Now her son can play outside safely in a development that will have playgrounds, a community center, fitness centers, a central park, and commercial space along Main Street. As the Durham Housing Authority and their partners celebrate the opening of this phase of the development and continue the work over here on Phase 2, Commerce Street, they are also breaking ground on Phase 3, the Dillard Street apartments. The developments are mixed income, a model interim DHA CEO Anthony Snell says will be more successful.
We are just building communities that are totally inclusive of the entire community, and so that's where we think we're going to have our success.
I hope that you see your tax dollars at work. This is how we do it in Durham.
According to Zumper, the National Rent Index shows the median one-bedroom rent nationwide decreased 0.2% in August. In Durham, the median price of a one-bedroom unit increased 1.4% over last month, while the median price of a two-bedroom went down about 3% over last month. In Durham, Monica Casey, WRAL News.
President Trump has signed nearly 200 executive orders since taking office in January. And at 7 o'clock, we like to keep track of those orders, including one about burning the American flag. The president wants to ban this. So does his new executive order get that job done? Is it even allowed? Let's go in depth after the break. Kat?
And it's our last 7:30 sunset of the year, and we barely get to see it here. Live look at North Hills. The clouds have arrived. We could see some rain tomorrow. I'll let you know when and where coming up.
President Donald Trump signed an executive order that seems to make it illegal to burn the American flag.
What the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail.
The way he says it there, it seems pretty cut and dry, doesn't it? He just banned flag burning, except he didn't. He kind of did, but not really. Actually, it depends. So let's go in depth.
Do this for every single one of you American citizens. We burn this flag in protest to that president.
A man from North Carolina lit an American flag on fire outside of the White House gates. Police detained and arrested him. He thinks Trump's executive order infringes on freedom of speech. That order says, my administration will act to restore respect and sanctity to the American flag and prosecute those who incite violence or otherwise violate our laws while desecrating this symbol of our country. Now, we should mention that while Trump is the first president to use an executive order for this sort of thing, he is not the first person to pursue it. In 2006, Hillary Clinton co-sponsored a bill that used similar language and reasoning.
So I hope, Mr. President, that we can pass a law that criminalizes flag burning and desecration. I agree that this burning, this desecration that can happen to our flag is something that people have a right to ask this body to try to prohibit and prevent.
And years before that, in 1989, Congress actually passed the Flag Protection Act, making it a federal crime, and President Bush signed it into law.
I believe that the American flag is a unique and special symbol of our nation, and it should be protected from desecration. And our administration has proposed a constitutional amendment to protect the flag.
Now, the Supreme Court struck this law down, but Bush's son, George W. Bush, tried again in 2006. A vote to amend the Constitution passed the House, but failed in the Senate by just one vote. That said, many legal experts argued the Supreme Court would have probably struck that down too. But why? Why does the Supreme Court keep allowing people to burn the flag? Well, let's ask one of the conservative justices who famously ruled in favor of protecting flag burning, Antonin Scalia.
If I were king, I would not allow people to go about burning the American flag. However, we have a First Amendment which says that the right of free speech shall not be abridged, and it is addressed in particular to speech critical of the government. I mean, that was the main kind of speech that tyrants would seek to suppress. Burning a flag is a symbol that expresses an idea. I hate the government is unjust, whatever.
You see, free speech is a tough topic, and the founders knew that, which is why it is the First Amendment, and it protects all speech, even speech you don't like. The ACLU has a list called Defending Speech We Hate because they champion free speech, even when it conflicts with their values. This is an organization that nearly went bankrupt for supporting the free speech of Nazis to march through Skokie, Illinois in 1977, a town of 6,000 Holocaust survivors. Defending free speech can be nasty business. That said, there are limits, right? I mean, there are things you can't say. The courts have laid all of this out over the years. Obscenity is a good example. You can't start playing pornography on a street corner. Commercial speech, ads can't lie to promote a product. Or speech in context. You know, the government can say no loud music after 10 p.m., that sort of thing. Now, Trump's order, and for what it's worth, Clinton's bill back in the 90s, they turned to another exemption, incitement. Here's the order again, the way it's written. My administration will prosecute those who incite violence or otherwise violate our laws while desecrating this symbol of our country. So in other words, flag burning is banned if it incites violence or violates other laws. You know, the situation with the man from North Carolina outside of the White House is kind of an open and shut case. Now, he wasn't charged with flag burning specifically. He was charged with starting a fire in a public place. He could have really been burning anything. But when it comes to inciting violence, that can be pretty tough to prove, even using extreme examples. Now, this first came from a ruling in 1969. A KKK leader held a Klan rally in Ohio. He was arrested for this, but the Supreme Court overruled that arrest. It decided that free speech should be protected, quote, except where such advocacy is directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action. So even though this group carried weapons, made horrendous remarks about race and religion, it still didn't meet the court's standard for incitement. And this is the same ruling that lets the Westboro Baptist Church hold those hateful signs that say things like God sent the shooter outside the funerals for children who were killed in mass shootings. It is unsettling, but it is allowed, just like burning the flag. When most Americans see images like this, they squirm. They're offended. This feels like it should be illegal. Decades of polling confirm this, and that makes sense. The American flag represents a lot. It's our home, where many of us were raised, the country that showed the world that this experiment of a free society could not only work, but thrive. And it represents all the people who fought and died to prove it. It's July 4th, emancipation, women's suffrage, civil rights, a refuge for the tired, the poor, and the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And the knowledge that while none of those pursuits are complete, we've never stopped trying. It is the moon landing, the Super Bowl, the Rocky Mountains, small town parades, homecoming queen, and ice cream after Little League. It's the soldiers on the beaches of Normandy and the rebuilding at Ground Zero. It is a dream and a reality at the same time. It is potential. And when you see people desecrate the flag, it's not without a sense of irony, because they are burning something that stands for them. It doesn't stand for just one side of an issue. It stands for your right to be on any side. Tell me what you think about this. I know a lot of you have some pretty deep thoughts on this topic. Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. Tell me what's on your mind, and we'll go in depth.
Dan giving a little boost of patriotism there. I like it. What a beautiful night to be out, watching the Durham Bulls take on the Norfolk Tides. A nice sunset and the reflection in the buildings in Raleigh. Just an overall nice night, Kat.
Oh, it's been beautiful today. Low to mid 70s at dinner time. Just stunning. Maybe good for a fire pit tonight. Nice fall-like night for it. By 9 o'clock, 68 degrees. It's not going to be as chilly, though, because of the cloud cover that moves in tonight. Still cool, though. And tomorrow, we've got a small chance for rain. Just a heads up there. After that, only a 20% chance for the end of the week. We've got a system sitting offshore, and just enough moisture should make its way inland to squeeze out a couple of sprinkles tomorrow. No big deal, but some light showers are possible tomorrow, late morning through the early afternoon. Most of us are just going to be dealing with clouds, but a couple of these hit or miss sprinkles will be possible during the day. We made that change today, so I do want to let you know that's possible, but this is not going to be the rain that your yard probably needs. We just don't have any good rain in the forecast anytime soon, but there is hope here. When you look at the average rainfall for each month for the triangle throughout the year, the two wettest months are July and September on average, and September is the #1 spot, averaging over 5 inches of rain. So, there is hope that we'll get some good rain this month. Of course, it is the peak of hurricane season. The actual peak is tomorrow. Just keep in mind, usually hurricane season is pretty active from August, through the month of October. So even though there is no new tropical development expected for the next week, don't let your guard down yet. Things are likely to become more active as we get into the end of the month of September and perhaps into October as well. The long-range tropical outlook shows the chance for some development around the Yucatan Peninsula in the time frame of September 17th through the 23rd, but more likely we would see some tropical development moving off the coast of Africa with that next wave during the time period. So this goes to show we shouldn't let our guard down yet, but it's great to see that there's nothing menacing out there for the peak of hurricane season this week at least. Tomorrow, 76, the coolest day on our 7-day forecast. We'll be back in the 80s after that. The weekend looking pretty good as of right now. Next week should be a bit warmer. Highs are in the mid 80s Monday and Tuesday, and the American model trending even warmer than that. So don't put away your T-shirts just yet. We're not settled into sweater weather anytime soon.
All right, Kat, we won't. Thank you. Hey, Raleigh now has its own version of Monopoly. Which property do you think would be Boardwalk? North Hills, maybe? Dix Park? For tonight's One Last Thing, we'll pass, go, collect 200. That's after the break. One last thing. There's a new version of the board game that takes entirely too long to play, but I love it anyway. Monopoly.
There's now a version of that game based on Raleigh. The properties are named after places around our area: North Hills, Carter Finley Stadium, the state capitol, the Museum of Art.
As part of today's announcement, I'm so captivated. As part of today's announcement, Raleigh Mayor Janet Cowell met Mr. Monopoly, the guy with the mustache. We are told that they chose Raleigh because we have a lot going on, lots of arts and history and growth, and they are not done making it. They're taking suggestions from the public. It's expected to come out next year.
Now, you might be thinking, wait a second, doesn't Raleigh already have a Monopoly game? I swear I've seen one at the mall, and you would be right. You're probably thinking of this, Raleigh-opoly. This has actually been out for a while. It also has Raleigh-themed properties like Marbles Kid Museum, NC State. Weirdly enough, there's also an NC State-opoly. Look, what is the difference, and why are there so many opolies?
Raleigh-opoly, NC State-opoly, that's made by Hasbro. Raleigh Monopoly is actually made by Top Trumps USA, no relation to the president. That's just what it's called.
So give it a
There
shot.
you go.
Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock on WRAL.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 12.